Imagine a big heavy car with a classic luxury design, a Mercedes emblem on the grille. Now picture that same car leaving American muscle cars in the dust during drag races. Sounds absurd, right? But that was exactly the reality of the 1968 Mercedes-Benz 300 SEL 6.3, a brutal sleeper disguised as an executive sedan that became a legend. In the 1960s, muscle cars were at their peak in the United States. Camaro, Mustang, Charger, all symbols of raw power and street speed. Meanwhile, across the Atlantic, the Germans were focused on building luxurious, refined, and technologically advanced cars. Or at least that's what everyone thought. Mercedes-Benz was known for its sophisticated sedans, high-end cars that exuded status and comfort. But inside the company, there was a group of engineers who wanted to change that perception. They knew Mercedes had something special hidden in its lineup, a massive 6.3-liter V8, originally developed for an ultra-luxurious sedan, the Mercedes 600, a car used by world leaders and wealthy elites at the time. But then a guy named Eric Waxenberger, a Mercedes engineer, had a crazy idea. What if we shoved that massive engine into the Mercedes 300 SEL, a lighter, more compact car? And just like that, the world's first super sedan was born, a car that looked like a refined executive vehicle, but had the raw power to humiliate American muscle cars with ease. But how did this Mercedes become an absolute beast on the track? And why did no one see it coming? Now that you know how this wild idea came to life, it's time to understand why the Mercedes 300 SEL 6.3 was so insane for its time. It all starts with the heart of this monster, a 6.3-liter V8, originally designed for the ultra-luxurious Mercedes 600, a car driven by world leaders and wealthy elites. But there was a catch. The Mercedes 600 was a massive land yacht, weighing over 2 tons. The 300 SEL, however, was 450 kilograms, nearly 1,000 pounds lighter. And once that big block V8 was transplanted into it, the result was a true sleeper monster. Horsepower, 250 gross horsepower. Torque, 376 pound-feet, the kind of force that glued you to the seat. 0 to 60 miles per hour, 6.5 seconds, quicker than a 1968 Mustang GT 390. Top speed, 137 miles per hour, an insane number for a luxury sedan in the 1960s. Now picture this. It's the late 60s. You're at a stoplight in your Camaro SS or Dodge Charger. Kings of the streets, right? You glance over and see a plain-looking Mercedes-Benz pull up beside you. Wood-trimmed interior, plush leather seats. Everything about it screams executive luxury. But the second the light turns green, that boring Mercedes launches like a rocket. The rear wheels spin, the V8 roars to life, and within seconds it's already car lengths ahead. This wasn't just a luxury sedan. This was a machine built to destroy expectations. But as soon as the light turns green, it takes off. The rear wheels screech, the V8 roars, and within seconds it's already several car lengths ahead. No one expected a luxury sedan to have that kind of brute force. It didn't just keep up with the muscle cars of its time, it humiliated them. But the secret of the 300 SEL 6.3 wasn't just in the engine. This car wasn't just powerful, it was incredibly advanced for its era. By now it's clear that the Mercedes 300 SEL 6.3 was a disguised monster. But believe it or not, it wasn't just about raw power. This car was so ahead of its time, it felt like it came from the future. While American muscle cars were simple machines built for straight-line speed, this Mercedes had sophisticated engineering far beyond what was common at the time. The 6.3-liter V8 was only part of the secret. The real game changer was in the mechanical setup and cutting-edge technology. Air suspension, while muscle cars relied on solid rear axles and basic coil springs, the 300 SEL featured a pneumatic system that adjusted ride height and kept the car stable at high speeds. Four-wheel disc brakes, remember? This was 1968. Many muscle cars were still using drum brakes, which overheated easily. The Mercedes stopped faster and with more confidence. 4-speed automatic transmission. At a time when most muscle cars with automatics had only 3 gears, this Mercedes had a smoother, faster shifting 4-speed transmission, making acceleration more refined. Precision hydraulic steering. While most muscle cars still had heavy manual steering, the 300SEL offered responsive control that made it feel agile despite its size. The result? It didn't just accelerate better than many muscle cars, it handled corners with far more control. While American muscle cars struggled with traction and braking, this German sedan delivered a far more balanced and sophisticated driving experience. And all of this without sacrificing luxury. Inside the 300SEL 6.3, passengers were surrounded by plush leather seats, rich wood trim, a fully equipped dashboard, and a level of sound insulation that made you forget you were driving a monster. With everything we've seen so far, one question remains. If the Mercedes 300SEL 6.3 was so advanced, so fast, and so brutal, why didn't it become a mainstream icon like American muscle cars? The answer comes down to a few key factors. First, the price. While a Chevrolet Camaro SS or a Dodge Charger RT sold for around $3,500 to $4,000, the Mercedes 300SEL 6.3 cost over $14,000. It was nearly 4 times the price of a muscle car, putting it out of reach for most enthusiasts. Instead, it was reserved for businessmen, aristocrats, and wealthy collectors. Second, the maintenance. Muscle cars were simple and cheap to fix. Open the hood of a Mustang, grab a few basic tools, and you could work on it yourself. The Mercedes 300SEL 6.3, on the other hand, was extremely sophisticated for its time. The air suspension, 4-wheel disc brakes, and precision V8 engine required specialized mechanics, expensive parts, and much more maintenance. Third, the buyer profile. Muscle cars were built for young drivers, street racers, and speed junkies. The Mercedes 300SEL 6.3 was marketed as a luxury car, targeted at executives and millionaires. It never had the image of a performance car, despite being ridiculously fast. But those who knew what this car was capable of treated it as a legend. The 300SEL 6.3 became a cult classic among enthusiasts, especially in Europe, and it paved the way for something even bigger. It inspired the birth of AMG, the high-performance division of Mercedes-Benz. If the Mercedes 300SEL 6.3 was already impressive from the factory, imagine what would happen if it fell into the hands of tuners who wanted to push it to the absolute limit. That's exactly what happened. And this is where AMG comes into the picture. At the time, still a small workshop specializing in transforming luxury Mercedes sedans into full-blown race machines. In 1971, 2 German engineers at AMG decided to see just how far the 300SEL 6.3 could go. The plan? Push the V8's power even further and turn the sedan into a true race car. They bored out the engine from 6.3 liters to 6.8 liters, boosted the power to around 428 horsepower, and completely overhauled the suspension and braking system. The result was an absolute monster, nicknamed the Red Pig, a bright red Mercedes 300SEL 6.3 race car that looked like a war machine on wheels. And then came the moment no one expected. In 1971, the Red Pig entered the 24 Hours of Spa-Francorchamps, one of the toughest endurance races in the world. Against all odds, it finished second overall. A luxury Mercedes sedan had just humiliated purebred race cars on the track. This achievement forever changed the history of AMG and Mercedes-Benz. What started as an experimental project proved that a big, heavy sedan could compete with true race cars. If today we know machines like the Mercedes-AMG E63, C63, or S65, it all started with this unlikely car from the 1960s. But the 300SEL 6.3 didn't just influence the world of sports sedans. It also left an incredible legacy in the world of classic sleepers. Decades have passed, but the Mercedes 300SEL 6.3 has never been forgotten. It may not have become a mainstream icon like American muscle cars, but among true enthusiasts, this car is a legend. It proved that a luxury sedan could be brutally fast, paved the way for the creation of AMG, and established the foundation for the super sedans that dominate roads and racetracks today. And above all, the 300SEL 6.3 was one of the greatest sleepers in history. It had no racing stripes or flashy spoilers. It didn't have aggressive names like Charger or Mustang. It wasn't built for drag racing, but it humiliated muscle cars in a straight line. It looked nothing like a race car, yet it shined at Spa-Francorchamps. Today, this car is a rare collector's item. Well-preserved models can fetch over $150,000, and those tuned by AMG, like the legendary Red Pig, are nearly impossible to find on the market. But its true value isn't in the price, it's in the revolution it brought to the automotive world. If you see a German sports sedan today with a monstrous V8 engine and supercar performance, remember, it all started with the unlikely 300SEL 6.3. Did you already know this story? Do you think this was the greatest classic sleeper of all time? Let us know in the comments.